Okay, chapter 16, special senses of the eye and ear, the language of ophthalmology and otology. 16.1, accessory structures, extrinsic eye muscles, and functions of the eye. Okay, accessory structures, extrinsic muscles, and their functions. The components of the eye work together so we can see. The function of the eye is to receive and bend light rays, convert them to electric energy, send it to the brain, which creates the images we see. Accessory structures serve as assistants to the eye so that it can receive the light rays. Eyebrows keep sweat from running into the eye and function in nonverbal communication. Eyelids consist mostly of muscle that fans out from each eyelid onto the forehead and cheek to open and close the eyelids. They are covered in the body's thinnest layer of skin. Functions of eyelids are to close and protect the eye from foreign objects. Blink to move tears across the surface of the eye and sweep debris away. Close in sleep to keep out visual stimuli. The tarsus is flat, fibrous connective tissue layer in the eyelid, whose ducts open along the edge of the eyelid. Tarsal glands are found within the tarsus, with ducts open along the edge of the eyelid. They secrete an oily fluid that keeps the eyelids from sticking together. Eyelashes are strong hairs that keep debris out of the eyes. They arise on the edge of the lids from the hair follicles. Canthi, singular, canthus, are the two corners where the upper and lower eyelids meet. Okay. Conjunctiva is a transparent mucous membrane that lines the outside of both eyelids and covers the front of the eye, except the central portion of the cornea. The conjunctiva is freely movable, has numerous small vessels, and is richly supplied with nerve endings that make it very sensitive to pain. Numerous goblet cells within the conjunctiva secrete a thin film of mucin that prevents the surface of the eyeball from dehydrating. The lacrimal apparatus consists of four structures. Lacrimal gland. Okay. Ducts of lacrimal gland. Lacrimal sac. Lacrimal canal. Let's see, nasolacrimal duct, inferior meatus of nasal cavity and nostril. The lacrimal tear gland, located in the upper lateral corner of the orbit, secretes tears. Okay, the second structure of the lacrimal apparatus is the lacrimal ducts. Short lacrimal ducts carry the tears to the surface of the conjunctiva. Tears wash across the conjunctiva. Third, the lacrimal sac collects the tears at the medial corner of the eye. And fourth, the nasocrimal duct carries the tears into the nose from where they're swallowed. The functions of tears are to clean and lubricate the surface of the eye, deliver nutrients and oxygen to the conjunctiva, prevent infection through a bactericidal enzyme called lysozyme. Intrinsic muscles of the eye. Humans with two eyes working closely together have developed very good three-dimensional perception, stereopsis, and hand coordination. Stereopsis depends on an accurate alignment of the two eyes. Canthus, corner of the eye where upper and lower lids meet. Canthi is plural. Conjunctiva is inner lining of the eyelids. Conjunctival, adjective, pertaining to the conjunctiva. extrinsic, Latin for on the outer side, muscles that are located on the outside of the eye. Okay, and intrinsic is muscles that are located inside the eye. Lacrimal, pertaining to tears. Lacrimal duct carries tears to conjunctiva. Lacrimal sac, where tears leave the eye at the medial corner. And nasal lacrimal duct, passage from the lacrimal sac to the nose. Lysozyme, enzyme that dissolves the cell walls of bacteria. Orbit, the bony socket that holds the eyeball. Orbital, pertaining to the orbit. Paraorbital, pertaining to tissues around the orbit. Stereopsis, three-dimensional vision. Tarsus, Greek for flat, the flat fibrous plate that gives shape to the outer edges of the eyelids. And tarsal, pertaining to the tarsus. This alignment is held in place by the coordination of 6 extrinsic eye muscles, also called extraocular muscles, for each eye that are attached to the inner wall of the orbit and to the outer surface of the eyeball. The function of these muscles is to move the eye in all directions. The eyeball. The functions of the eyeball are to adjust continuously the amount of light it lets in to reach the retina, focus continually on the distant objects, on near or distant objects, and produce images of those objects and instantly transmit them to the brain. The front of the eyeball, except for the cornea, is covered by the conjunctiva, a thin layer of tissue that covers the inside of the eyelids and curves over the eyeball to meet the sclera, the tough white outer layer of the eye. The center of the front of the eye is a transparent dome-shaped membrane called cornea. The cornea has no blood supply and obtains its nutrients from tears and from fluid in the anterior chamber behind it. When light rays strike the eye, they pass through the cornea. Because of its domed curvature, those rays striking the edge of the cornea are bent toward its center. The light rays then go through the pupil, the black opening in the center of the colored area, the iris in the front of the eye. The pupil controls the amount of light entering the eye. The sphincter pupillae muscle opens and closes the pupil. When you are in dark space, the sphincter pupillae muscle opens or dilates to allow more light to enter. When you're in bright light, the sphincter pupillae muscle closes or constricts to admit less light. After passing through the pupil, the light rays pass through the transparent lens. The ciliary muscle of the ciliary body makes the lens thicker and thinner, enabling it to bend the light rays and focus them on the retina at the back of the eye. This process of changing focuses is called accommodation. The process of bending the light rays by the cornea and lens is called refraction. The lens has no supply of blood vessels or nerves. With increasing age, the lens loses its elasticity. Did you know the cornea protects the eye, and by changing shape it provides about 60% of the eye's focusing power? The pupil controls the amount of light entering the eye. The lens changes its shape to focus rays of light into the retina. Both the cornea and the lens refract light rays. Neither has a blood supply, which compromises healing from injury or disease. Ciliary body is, cili means eyelid, body mass. So muscles that make the mass, or make the lens of the eye thicker and thinner. Cornea, the Latin for web and tunic, the central transparent part of the outer coat of the eye covering the iris and pupil. Iris, Greek for diaphragm of the eye. It's the colored portion of the eye with the pupil in its center. Lens, Latin for lentil shape. Transparent refractive structure behind the iris. Pupil, the opening in the center of the iris that allows light to reach the lens, pupilla, and plural, and pupillary is pertaining to the pupil. Refract, to break up. Okay, make a change in direction of or bend a ray of light. Refraction's noun, the change in direction of a ray of light when it passes from one optic medium to another. Retina, light-sensitive innermost layer of eyeball. Retinal, pertaining to the retina. Sclera, fibrous outer covering of the eyeball and the white of the eye. Scleral is pertaining to sclera. Sclera means hard white of eye. Sphincter, a band of muscle that encircles an opening. When it contracts, the opening squeezes closed. Okay, the retina. The final destination of the light rays is the retina, the thin lining at the back of your eye. Ooh. It's an area the size of a small postage stamp that has 10 layers of cells. The retina has 100 million rods, which perceive only light, not color, and function mostly when the light is dim. There are 6.5 million cones, which are activated by light and color and have precise visual acuity. Different cones respond to red, blue, and green. The perception of color is based on the intensity of different mixtures of colors from the 3 types of cones. Rods and cones are called photoreceptor cells. The rods and cones convert the energy of the light rays into electrical impulses, and the optic nerve, a bundle of more than 1 million nerve fibers, transmits these impulses to the visual cortex at the back of the brain. The area where the optic nerve leaves the retina is called the optic disc because it has no rods and no cones. The optic disc cannot form images and is called the blind spot. Just lateral to the optic disc at the back of the retina is a circular yellowish region called macula lutea. Let's see how to say this real quick. Lutea. Just lateral to the optic disc at the back of the retina is a circular yellowish region called the macula lutea. The center of the macula is a small pit called fovea centralis, which has 4,000 tiny cones and no rods. Each cone has its own nerve fiber, and this makes the fovea the area of sharpest vision. As you read this text, the words are precisely focused on your fovea centralis. The rods and cones outside the macula provide peripheral vision. Behind the photoreceptor layer of the retina is a very vascular layer called choroid. This layer, together with its iris and ciliary body, is called uvea. Segments of the eye. The eyeball is divided into 2 fluid-filled segments separating by the lens and the ciliary muscle. The fluids maintain the shape of eyeball. In the back, the posterior cavity extends from the back of the lens to the retina and contains a transparent jelly called the vitreous humor, which helps maintain the shape of the eyeball. In front, the anterior cavity extends from the cornea to the lens and is divided into 2 chambers. The anterior chamber extends from the cornea to the iris, and the posterior chamber extends from the iris to the lens. Aqueous humor is produced in the posterior chamber as a filtrate from plasma, step 1. It passes through the pupil into the anterior chamber, step 2, where it is continually reabsorbed into a vascular space called the sclerovenous sinus, step 3, and taken into the venous bloodstream. The aqueous humor also removes waste products and helps maintain the internal chemical environment of the eye. Okay, visual pathway. After the optic nerves leave the back of the retina and eyeball, they leave each orbit through the optic foramen. They converge into an X called the optic chiasm. Here the fibers from the medial half of each retina cross the opposite side of the brain. Amazing. Wow. Right eye fixed. Left eye fixed. Right eye cross. Left eye cross. Wow. After leaving the chiasm, how do you say? Chiasm?
Chiasm.
Okay, after leaving the chiasm, the fibers form the optic tract and then the optic radiation to take the nerve impulses to the visual cortex and the occipital lobes at the back of the brain. Here the incoming visual stimuli are interpreted. Refraction. Light is traveling at a speed of 186,000 miles per second when it hits the eye. Light rays that hit the center of the cornea pass straight through, but because the curvature of the cornea, rays that hit away from the center are bent toward the center. The light rays then hit the lens that are bent again, and in normal vision, the image is focused sharply on the retina. This normal vision is called emetropia. Emetropia. Okay. Disorders of refraction. Farsighted people are said to have hyperopia, in which only distant objects can be seen clearly because the eyeball is shortened. Objects close to the eye are focused behind the retina and vision is blurred. Convex lenses are needed to correct the problem. Okay, hyperopia is farsightedness. Nearsighted people are said to have myopia, in which only close objects can be clearly seen because the eyeball is elongated. Faraway objects are focused in front of the retina. Oh, I see. So convex corrective lens, like circular on both sides, round on both sides, and then concave corrective lens has the concaving and a flat surface. In presbyopia, the lens loses its flexibility, so there is difficulty focusing for near vision. This happens when you reach your 40s. Astigmatism, unequal curvatures of the cornea cause unequal focusing and blurred images. And accommodative estropia is an inward eye turn, usually noticed around 2 years of age. It can be caused by underlying conditions such as uncorrected hyperopia. Amblyopia, or lazy eye, occurs in children when vision in one eye has not developed as well as the other. Amblyopia can be caused by disorders of refraction, family history, prematurity, or muscle imbalance. Strabismus, amblyopia. Alright, aqueous humor. Aqueous humor, water liquid in the anterior and posterior chambers of the eye. Chiasm, X-shaped crossing of the two optic nerves at the base of the brain. Chiasma is the alternative term for chiasm. Choroid is a region of the retina uvea. Fovea centralis is a small pit in the center of the macula that has the highest visual acuity. Macula lutea, yellowish spot in the back of the retina, contains the fovea centralis. Optic is pertaining to vision of the eye. Optical is pertaining to vision of the eye. Photoreceptor. A photoreceptor cell receives light and converts it into electrical impulses. Tract is bundle of nerve fibers with a common origin and destination. Uvea, middle coat of eyeball, includes iris, ciliary body, and choroid. Visual acuity, sharpness and clearness of vision. Vitreous humor, a gelatinous liquid in the posterior cavity of the eyeball with the appearance of glass.